Hi, my name is Masaru Kajimoto. I'm an associate professor of practice at HKU Journalism. In today's talk, I want to talk about the landscape of fact-checking in Asia. In particular, I'd like to share some of my findings, thoughts, and concerns that I developed when I did my research in this field last year. But first, I want to talk about the trends. Fact-checking is a form of journalism that is booming in Asia right now. It has expanded rapidly in 2020. This is obvious just by looking at the numbers. As many of you know, Duke Reporters Lab has been monitoring the development of fact-checking around the world since 2016. According to their latest survey, there are 94 active fact-checking organizations in APAC. The number was just 39 2 years ago. So it has more than doubled in recent years. And this number 94 does not include many new initiatives that I know of that have launched recently. So it is even growing more. We should also remember that we have some governmentally led efforts in this field in our part of the world. So including all those, I am aware that there are more than 110 active fact-checking efforts right now in APAC. For the research I did last year, to narrow the focus, I excluded countries in the Middle East as well as in the Pacific. So when I say Asia in my talk, I'm talking about a smaller geographical region compared with Duke Reporters Lab. So in Asia, at the moment, there are 35 IFCN signatory members, out of which 23 work with Facebook as its third-party fact-checkers. Last year in October, I sent out an invitation to participate in mini online survey to 50 fact-checkers. Well, actually, many of you who are watching this video joined the survey. And once again, I thank you very much. I really appreciate your help. And I also asked you to forward my email to other fact-checkers. So in the end, I don't know how many fact-checkers I've reached out. But for the article I wrote, I analyzed 40 initiatives in 18 countries and regions. My first finding is a very positive one. This field is rife with innovation in our region. Fact-checkers are increasingly turning to education. There are many news literacy projects and media literacy projects that have launched recently. Some fact-checkers are trying to automate the fact-checking process with chatbots and AI. Crowdsourcing and collaborating with university programs are another trends that I observed. So many fact-checkers are different ways to enhance their work right now. But I don't want to get into the details because I'm sure we will be hearing a lot about their great achievements from them directly in this conference today and tomorrow. So my focus is two other topics: governments and Facebook's third-party fact-checking program. There are two forms of governmental involvement in fact-checking. The first is a direct engagement. Some governments established their own agencies and units to do daily fact-checking. In Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, India, and Singapore at least, governments have their own dedicated resources and websites for this purpose. The second type is an indirect involvement. Some authorities are working with, or at least publicly supporting, independent fact-checkers and news organizations, as well as other stakeholders like platforms. In Indonesia, China, and Taiwan, we can see how governmental units are collaborating or publicly helping fact-checking efforts and initiatives. These obviously raise some concerns. Governmentally led fact-checking can be politically one-sided. On many topics, governments have direct conflict of interests. Governments are part of the news. If the governments are deciding what is fact and what is not, it could be intimidating to many people, including journalists. It could possibly infringe people's rights to free speech. It's prone to abuse because fact-checking can be used for political gains. Working with authorities as independent fact-checkers is different, but it has some risks as well. First off, it could undermine their credibility and non-partisanship. some government officials are actively talking about their work with fact-checkers in the media interviews and other promotional efforts. And those government's association with fact-checkers can be detrimental to the reputation of the organization. In a politically polarized society, such projects can be further divisive and could make fact-checkers even vulnerable when there are changes in policies and administration. But unlike me, many fact-checkers I communicated for the research shared more nuanced views actually regarding governmental involvement. A lot of respondents said it could be beneficial actually when the misinformation they're dealing with is not political. Of course, COVID-19 dominated our field last year, so I believe public health was in many people's mind at the time. Some said they should take advantage of the unmatched reach and resources that governments offer in disseminating accurate information. Again, public health came up often. Others said dealing with the government is nothing new. They cannot avoid it in their countries, and they have to do it one way or another. So they might as well do it right. Another concern I would like to raise today is the pros and cons of Facebook's 3PFC program. In Asia, there are 23 partner organizations operating in 12 countries and regions. And those countries you see on the slide. Some organizations like AFP, Boom, and Fact Crescendo operate in multiple countries across the region. So I counted them as one outlet, but included all the countries they are in. Now, the money fact checkers make from the 3PFC program can be quite substantial. Globally, most IFCN signatories are small. According to the survey done by IFCN last year, 60% of the signatories has the annual budget of less than $100,000, out of which half of them has only $50,000 per year. So many fact-checking organizations are small. In my survey, out of 40 outlets I analyzed, 14 has less than 10 staff members, including part-time staff. Another 13 outlets have less than 20, again including part-timers. And many of them, I think around 2/3 of them, are structured as non-profit. Although none of the people I talked to disclosed exactly how much they are getting from Facebook through the 3PFC program, some of them indicated how big it could be. One respondent said it makes up a significant share of the revenue. Another person said it's disproportionately high compared with other funding sources. Another fact checker told me that she was concerned that her organization becomes too dependent on a single source of income. Yet another person said it affects their scope of work because they primarily look at what's being shared and trending on Facebook now and tend to put less emphasis and importance on other platforms. 5 editors I talked to told me, and here I'm summarizing their quotes, that 3PFC is a way to make their work financially stable and sustainable because it's big. And 3 fact checkers told me that getting the IFCN signatory certification and after that working with Facebook as a third-party fact checkers was included in the strategic plan from the beginning, even before they actually established their fact-checking initiatives. So how do we make sense of all these? Here I want to share some of my thoughts. In Asia, we need to be aware that governmental involvement is inevitable. It's alarming, of course, but the question in many countries is not how to go against this trend of governmental involvement in fact-checking, but rather how to cope with the reality while trying to keep as much editorial independence as possible. Meanwhile, working with platforms, most notably Facebook, but also with others like Google, Line, and TikTok, has its pros and cons. We need to be self-monitoring the influence, especially the financial impact that they bring in this field of fact-checking. I think we should always be thinking about and discussing what roles the governments, authorities, and platforms should play in fact-checking. And I think this conference is a great place to do that. Continuing growth and expansion of fact-checking also means that there will be more players with different degrees of skills, ethical standards, and even motivations. So looking ahead, in my view, fact-checking in Asia perhaps will be more entangled and less unified, whether we like it or not. So these are some of my thoughts. Today's talk is based on the article I wrote last year in November, which was finally published earlier this month. So I put the link on the slide, also the QR code. Thank you very much. Happy conference. Bye.